Hello, reviewees! Welcome back to our logical reasoning series. In our previous lesson, we have discussed about what deductive logic was all about. Today, we are shifting our focus to another fundamental aspect of reasoning, which is the inductive logic. What is inductive logic? Inductive reasoning is the process of reasoning in which we conclude from the individual cases to the existence of general laws or principles. It is the process of deriving a reliable generalization from observation so that the premises of an argument are believed to support the conclusion but do not necessarily ensure it. However, unlike deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning doesn't guarantee the accuracy of its conclusions. The premises support the conclusion to some extent but don't provide absolute certainty, making it a valuable tool for making educated guesses and forming hypotheses in scientific research and everyday decision making. Furthermore, let me show you some facts about inductive logic. Inductive logic is arriving at a conclusion on the basis of a principal facts that can guide you to the conclusion. So inductive reasoning involves observing patterns or trends in these facts and using them to make educated judgments about the broader situation or general principles. Also, inductive logic can be called an educated guess. Inductive reasoning can be likened to an educated guess as it involves making informed and logical predictions or conclusions based on observed evidence and patterns. While it doesn't provide absolute certainty, it allows us to make reasonable assumptions and hypotheses when we lack complete information. Inductive logic suggests the truth about a statement but does not directly prove the statement. This means that while inductive reasoning can make a statement more credible, it doesn't establish about absolute certainty, making it a valuable tool for making informed judgments and hypotheses in situations where conclusive proof is unavailable. Let us talk about the 5 ways of inductive reasoning, which are the example reasoning, causal reasoning, sign reasoning, comparison reasoning, and reasoning from authority. Example reasoning. Example reasoning uses specific instances as a basis for making a valid conclusion. For example, I have taken 4 good teachers at this college. Therefore, all teachers at this college are good. In this case, having a positive experience with 4 teachers at a college leads to the generalization that all teachers at the college are good. While this is a common way our minds work in making generalizations, it is important to remember that inductive reasoning doesn't guarantee the accuracy of the conclusion. It is based on probability, and there could be exceptions of variation among teachers that the 4 individuals don't represent. Causal reasoning. It is based on the idea that for every action, there is a reaction. There are 2 forms of causal reasoning: cause to effect and effect to cause. Causal reasoning is grounded in the principle that every action has a corresponding reaction or consequence. It involves understanding the cause and effect relationship between events. There are 2 primary forms of causal reasoning: the cause to effect, where you identify a cause and predict its potential effects, and effect to cause, where you observe an effect and work backward to determine its likely to cause. Sign reasoning. It involves inferring a connection between 2 related things. so that presence or absence of one indicates the presence or absence of the other. Sign reasoning is a process of drawing conclusions by establishing a connection between two related things, where the presence or absence of one thing suggests the presence or absence of the other. It often involves recognizing patterns or correlations in data to make predictions or inferences. For example, in medicine, the presence of certain symptoms may be a sign that a specific disease is present. Comparison reasoning. It involves drawing comparisons between two similar things and concluding that, because of the similarities involved, what is correct about one is also correct of the other. It is a common method of reasoning where shared characteristics or behaviors between the two subjects suggest that they share common attributes or outcomes. For example, if two different cars have similar safety features and crash test ratings, comparison reasoning leads to the conclusion that both cars are likely to be equally safe. Reasoning from authority. It is used when a person argues that a particular claim is justified because it is held or advocated by a credible source. Reasoning from authority is a form of argumentation where an individual asserts the validity of a claim based on the endorsement or support of a credible and knowledgeable source. You can use this type of argument in two ways, where you can ask that an argument can be accepted simply because someone you can consider an authority advocates it, and you can support your arguments with the credibility of another person. So here is an example of inductive reasoning. The example provided demonstrates a classic case of inductive reasoning. The major premises states that all birds have wings, and the minor premise asserts that all birds are bipeds. From these premises, the conclusion is drawn that some bipeds have wings. However, it is important to note that this conclusion is not necessarily true in all cases because there are many bipeds who do not have wings. This showcases how inductive reasoning can lead to generalized conclusions based on observed patterns, but it doesn't guarantee absolute truth, as there can be an exceptions to the generalizations. Before we end our discussion, we have to take note the key difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is often confused with deductive reasoning. However, in deductive reasoning, you make inferences by going from general premises to specific conclusions. So remember, when you are trying to draw conclusions, consider whether you are moving from specific cases to a general principle or from general principles to specific conclusions, as it can significantly impact the reliability and accuracy of your reasoning. Thank you, and that's all for our discussion about inductive reasoning. In our next lesson, we will delve into the topic of identifying valid arguments, which is another critical aspect of sound reasoning.